All right, Shalom. First foremost, want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai Bashim Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us this truth. And Shalom to the hopeful elect, the Akim and the Aquaf scattered around the four corners of the planet Earth that have returned to the obedience of the scriptures in these latter days. All right, Shalom, it's the brother Arak from GMS Dallas. All right, and I'll entitle this lesson Visualizing the Presence of the Lord. All right, visualizing the presence of the Lord. And in this lesson, that's exactly, what I intend to do using scripture. All right, because a major part of our salvation is, obviously Yahweh Shah, starting with him. All right, but the vehicles that are going to be used to actually deliver the elect, all right, are so-called UFOs. All right, so-called UAPs. Okay, unidentified flying object. All right, and then UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. All right, which is what the world calls them. Esau calls them, but really they're the chariots of the Lord. All right, they're the chariots of the Lord, and there are numerous accounts um, of the chariots of the Lord when you read the scriptures. All right, going all the way back to Genesis, all the way to Revelation. They're littered all throughout the scriptures. And any biblical scholar, anybody who's really serious about the scriptures, will tell you that. All right, this is not, you know, this isn't just it ain't just one scripture. All right, where we can just go to. There's numerous amount of scriptures, and we're gonna get some of them, but this is all, to help, visualize, because when you're reading the scriptures, you want to put yourself in, the particular accounts, and you want to visualize. You want to use your laab, which is your mind, all right, and your imagination to see, what is going on when you read particular scriptures. All right, so I'm going to get the definition of this word visualize. All right, it says a verb form. It says to form a picture of something in your mind. All right, to form a picture of someone or something in your mind. Okay, so we're going to go through scriptures, and Lord's willing, this is edifying. This is going to be a quick hit. All right, so I'm going to start here in Exodus chapter 19 and verse 14. All right, because this particular account was one of the major moments, in the beginning of our nation. All right, because after we were delivered out of Egypt, via various miracles and plagues, all right, that the Lord smited Egypt with. All right, once we entered into the wilderness, the Lord put on display, his presence and his power in front of all the people. Okay. And we were the only nation that experienced that. All right. That is specific to the nation of Israel. All right. Now you did have the mixed multitude, amongst, our nation, even during that time. All right. Which was basically, heathen servants and, slaves. But this particular moment was exclusive to the nation of Israel, because when you go into the account, it tells you that, Moses, commanded the people to basically, sanctify themselves, all right, before they even approached, you know. But this is Exodus 19 and 14. It says, and Moses went down from the mount unto the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said unto the people, be ready against the third day, come not at your wives. All right, meaning don't have sex. All right, sanctify yourselves. Okay, because again, the presence of the Lord is not a light thing, it's a heavy thing. All right, which is why you also have scriptures, where the scriptures say, take off your shoes. All right, for where you're standing upon is a holy ground. All right, let me get that real quick. Right, I believe that's earlier in Exodus 3, but this is yeah, Exodus 3 and 5, and this is Moses. It says, and he said, "Draw not nigh hither, put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thy standest is holy ground." All right, so when you're in the presence of the Lord, okay, whether you're up close and personal or whether you're far off, really it's holy ground. You're in the presence of the most powerful beings in the universe. Okay, so let's go back. This is Exodus chapter 19 and verse 16. It says, "And it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of a trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled." All right. So again, that thick cloud, the thunderings, the lightnings, the thick cloud upon the mount, that's basically going into the chariot, the chariot of the Lord. I'm gonna jump down to verse 18. It says, "And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly." All right. So when you read scriptures like this, you got to visualize. You got to put yourself, in the shoes, of someone that was actually there witnessing this event. And if you've ever been, at the base of a mountain, all right, or of even a large hill, it reminds you of how small and how feeble, we are in this flesh. All right, that's why the scriptures liken us unto worms. So imagine, not only are you sitting at the base of a great mountain, but a giant, you know, powerful, chariot, all right, and thick darkness and thunderings and lightning is dwelling, is descending down upon the mountain. All right, imagine how, imagine how small and how powerless that would make you feel, you know. And that was the point when the Lord did that, and we'll get another precept. The Lord wanted us to be fearful in that day. The Lord was intending to impart fear upon our people. And when the Lord comes back in these times, all right, and he's coming back soon, when he does that again, it's going to be even greater. All right, it's going to be even greater. Okay. And we'll get some scriptures on that as well. All right. And let me go to the next precept. This is Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 10. And it says, "Especially the day that thou stoodest before Yahweh thy power in Horeb, when the Lord said unto me, Gather me the people together, and I will make them hear my words, that they will learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children." All right. And again, you know, after the Lord comes back in these times, all right, the scriptures say, every eye shall see him. After the Lord reveals himself in the heavens in today's time, all right, there's going to be a perpetual fear, that is always a part of, you know, that's going to be attached to the heathen and to us as well. Now on the flip hand side of that, the elect are going to be delivered in these vehicles. All right, the presence of the Lord, the thick darkness, the clouds, the chariots. All right, it is going to be ominous. It is going to be fearful, but the elect of the nation of Israel are going to be delivered in the midst of that. All right, and matter of fact, let's get a precept to prove that real quick. Let me get something. This is Isaiah chapter 26 In verse 20, it says, "Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself, as it were, for a little moment, until the indignation be overpast." All right. And again, there's going to be indignation and destruction associated with the presence of the Lord. All right. The chariots. Okay. When the Lord reveals himself, it's going to be a lot of destruction, a lot of death and destruction. All right. Because remember, when you read Revelation, the 19th chapter, and I want to say about the 11th verse on down, going into the conquest of Yahweh Shah. All right. That's exactly what it is. It's a conquest. The Lord is coming to take down all the nations of the planet Earth, starting with America, Babylon the Great. All these nations are getting ready to be destroyed. All right. And the world system, the infrastructure, the technology, the concrete, the buildings, everything is getting ready to go down. All right. Because again, the kingdom is about to be established on earth. You know, I'm gonna read this, Isaiah 26 and 21. It says, "For behold, the Lord cometh out of his place, and the Lord's place is the heavens." All right. What is that? Isaiah 66 and 1. All right, real quick. This is Isaiah 66 and 1. It says, "Thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool." Okay, so again, the Lord is in the heavens. Okay, and the scriptures that we're reading, okay, Exodus 19, Deuteronomy 4, it illustrates that. It shows you that. That's how the Lord pulled up, so to speak, on our people in the wilderness from the heavens. Okay. This is Isaiah 26 and 21. It says, "For behold, the Lord cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity." So the Lord is coming out of the heavens to dish out judgment and punishment. All right. Let's get this word punish. All right. This is the word punish, paquad, and it says to attend to muster. Let me jump down. Strong's definitions. Whew. It says paquad, to visit with friendly or hostile intent. All right, because the Lord is going to be friendly to the elect and to the remnant. All right, Isaiah 31 and 5. All right, as birds flying, so will the Lord defend, Jerusalem, roughly paraphrasing. Okay, it says with friendly or hostile intent, right? So the Lord is going to be friendly to some. All right, he's going to be hostile to everybody else. All right, it says by analogy, to oversee, to muster, to charge. It says avenge. All right, this is that vengeance that the scriptures speak about. Okay, that's all included. All right, the day of the Lord is going to be a day of punishment and a day of vengeance. It's going to be ominous. It's going to be dark. Okay, Isaiah 26 and 21, it says, "For behold, the Lord cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. The earth also shall disclose her blood, and shall no more cover her slain." All right, so Esau, all right, the heathen, all right, the people that have been, destroying the planet Earth, destroying the people, all right, the plants, the animals, the ecosystems, all right, polluting the minds of the people. They're not gonna be. The Lord ain't gonna overlook that no more. The Lord getting ready to get down. All right, let me get another precept. This is Zephaniah chapter 1 and verse 15. It says that day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. And you got to meditate. You got to think about the word choice here in this verse. All right, what picture is that painting? All right, trouble, distress, wasteness, and desolation. All right, and that shows you that a lot of people, when they go into the Bible, a lot of these, false teachers and preachers, all right, and wicked Israelite groups, they're not really telling people the truth about the Bible. They're not really telling the people the truth about what to expect when the Lord comes. All right, because the Lord is not coming to give out handshakes and hugs, man. He's only doing that for the elect, and the elect is a very, very, very small number. Okay, and the remnant is a very, very, very small number compared to, set the 7 billion or however many billions of people on the planet Earth. He ain't coming for them. Okay, it says a day of the trumpet and alarm against the fenced cities and against the high towers, right? Because when the Lord finally reveals himself, all right, all the nations of the earth are going to go on defense mode. All right. Not only are they going to go on defense mode, but they're going to try to actually fight the Lord. They're going to try to fight him. All right. And that's outlined in Second Ezra, the 13th chapter. All right. As well as the war in heaven, man. Okay. Esau, Edom, and the heathen with this technology that they've gotten, they're going to actually attempt to fight the Lord in the heavens, man. All right. That's outlined in the scriptures. Okay. Verse 17, it says, and I will bring distress upon men that they shall walk like blind men because they have sinned against the Lord, and their blood shall be poured out as dust and their flesh as the dung. All right. So there's going to be a lot of bloodshed. There's going to be a lot of death. All right. That's what the God of the Bible, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, that's what's coming. That's what's coming to the planet Earth, man. And there's no way around it. Can't sugarcoat this. You can't, make it sound cute. No. Okay. The establishment of the kingdom is getting ready to go down. All right. Let me read this in Deuteronomy 4:11. It says, and ye came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. All right. And this is going into the account in Exodus when we were coming out of Egypt. All right. Let me read this verse again. It says, and ye came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of heaven, and with darkness and clouds and thick darkness. All right. And I'm going to attach the thumbnail for this video is going to be an image that ChatGPT generated that I copy and pasted this verse into ChatGPT. And the thumbnail will be what it generated. All right. Giving you basically an illustration, or a visual of what that actually looked like. All right. Which is basically, if you've seen the movie, Independence Day, all right, where the UFO, discloses itself, all right, it's going to be like that. All right. It's going to be like that. All right. But I wanted to just touch on that real quick. I'm going to close with this precept. This is a Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5 and verse 2. It says, when they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, so beyond all that they looked for. All right. And this is going into basically the reaction of the people when the Lord reveals himself. All right. When the presence of the Lord is upon the planet Earth and he's delivering the elect, saving the elect, they're going to be amazed and they're going to be scared. All right. But for us, for those who are obedient, all right, and have repented, all right, we're hoping for this day. We pray, that this day come so that we, Lord willing, can be delivered, So just wanted to touch on that real quick. Lord's willing, this lesson was edifying. With that, I want to say shalom.